First, there's a question. In all the years of practicing and teaching yoga, it was observed and experienced that after practicing the asanas, one moved effortlessly and seamlessly into a state of meditation. Now we know yoga means union of the body, mind and the spirit. And we know that meditation means focus and attention. And from that focus and attention, there's an integration of the three levels of existence. That level of the nitty-gritty, cause and effect, opposites, the level of intuition and spirit, magic, and so forth. And that third level, that subjective level of undifferentiated energy. But the question is, if yoga integration moves effortlessly and seamlessly into a state of meditation, where does the state of meditation lead us? And we know that there's more. There's more beyond the state of Satchitananda, or existence, knowledge and bliss. What could it be? In listening to these stories that are told, there's a possibility for us to experience what this is and find the answer to this question. Because we find ourselves able to understand the levels of the stories without effort of mind. What is this place? What is this state? What is it that yoga and meditation lead effortlessly and seamlessly into? There's a story of a man by the name of Yunus. Now Yunus was a peddler, and he owned a camel, and he plied his trade across the deserts of the Middle East, taking trinkets and goods from place to place. But one day Yunus was traveling on his camel through a vast plain of sand, when a sandstorm came along and obliterated the signposts that one would usually follow to find his way to his next destination. So Yunus gave his camel its head and allowed it to lead him where it would. And before very long, he found himself in a little oasis. Oh, there were palm trees waving in the wind and grass growing. And when he descended from his camel and looked, he found that there was a well. And he immediately put in a bucket and pulled up water for his camel. And then he spoke out loud to himself, "Oh, what a beautiful place is this, what a heaven to find in this vast desert." And suddenly there was a great roar, and emerging out of the well was the head of a huge genie. And the genie shouted at Yunus, "Human, how dare you invade my oasis without asking and giving thanks for what it is that is here?" "Oh," said Yunus, "great, great genie, I'm sorry, I'm very, very sorry. What can I do to make amends? How can I appease you?" "No," said the genie, "you're here and now I have to take your life. You're not to go anywhere." But Yunus begged and begged. "What can I do?" "Oh," said the genie, "then when you get home to your wife, whatever is the first thing she hands to you must be given to me." But Yunus said, "I live very far away. How can I get this to you?" "Ah," said the genie, "by the powers of the great king of the genies, King Sulaiman, son of David, blessed be his name, I can go anywhere. Be assured that I will be there to receive what it is that you have for me." So Yunus slept the night, and the next morning he shook himself because there was no sign of a genie of any kind, so he thought it must have been some kind of dream. So he got on his camel, and the way was clear for him, and the camel naturally took him back to his home. But as his wife came out to greet him, she said, "Oh, beloved husband, it is so wonderful to see you again, and here I have a gift for you, a blessed son that's been born to us in your absence." Suddenly Yunus remembered the genie, and he said, "Oh, my wife, I wish that you had not handed me our son." And he told her the story of the genie and the promise that had been made. "Oh," she said, we cannot give our only and beloved son away. Quickly, go to a wise man, go to a sage, and see if we can find something that will save us." So taking their son, they went to a sage who they knew lived not far away. And the sage immediately had made an amulet of silver, on which he had inscribed words from the sacred book. And he said, "Put this on your son's neck and never let him be without it, else the genie will have power over him." Well, the years passed, and Yunus and his wife almost forgot about the genie's promise. But then, one day, when their son was 10 years old and playing out with his friends, there was a great roar. And the genie appeared to Yunus's son and said, "Come, you belong to me. Your father gave you to me. Come to my oasis where you'll find peace and bliss." "No, no, no," said the boy, and his friends running away from this terrible, frightening apparition. The boy ran quickly back to his mother and father and told them about his encounter. They were very afraid, but they received assurance from the old sage that their son would be safe whilst he wore the amulet. He should never take it off, otherwise the genie would have power over him. The boy grew, and at the age of 17, he was conscripted into the Sultan's army, who was at war with another kingdom. And so the young man went off to war. And one day he found himself in a situation where he was overcome by the enemies. Two great men were about to behead him, kill him, when suddenly the genie appeared, grabbing him and lifting him to safety. The young man thanked, "Oh, 1,000 thank you and blessings upon you for saving my life." And the genie said, "Well, you belong to me. Take off that amulet and come with me to my oasis, where you will live in peace and bliss." And at that moment there was thunder and a great roar, and there in front of them was King Sulaiman, king of the jinns and the genies. And he said to the genie, "Let this young man free. Do you hear what I'm saying to you?" And the genie fell down on its knees and said, "I hear you, O great king of the jinns." And then King Sulaiman said to the genie, "You were relegated to that well in the desert because of your evil deeds. But because of saving the life of this young human, you have now been elevated to the realms of those genies who can sit on my right side and do good. Now let him free." And in that instant, the king of the jinns, King Sulaiman, in his royal robes, and the genie disappeared, never to be seen again. The son of Yunus completed his duties as a soldier and returned triumphantly to his parents, who welcomed him with great rejoicing. From that moment on, the son of Yunus would many times sit around the campfire and relate the story of his life and how he was liberated by the king of the jinns. Knowing that these stories contain all of those elements that are elements of our own psyche, our own being, each and every one being an aspect of ourselves. What does this story mean for you? What are those levels that are contained in all stories that we have the ability to comprehend their significance? Music. Good feelings. their significance on a moral level that we can understand on the nitty-gritty level, that we can glean on the occult or spirit level, the genie, King Sulaiman and so forth, and that level of the undifferentiated, where we understand it subjectively, and something more, it's secret, the kernel, the essence that's contained in all these stories. How, when we move through that integration of body, mind and spirit, and that merging of the nitty-gritty, airy-fairy and transcendental, how can it move us seamlessly into that place and state where we can understand the secret contained in all of life, everyone we meet, every element of existence?
I think it's interesting with that story because I find a number of fascinating aspects of it. The first aspect of it was guidance, because he didn't know where to go, and so he knew the camel had a higher intelligence than he did, and allowed the camel to guide him to where the camel would know to go. And so he had that wisdom to be able to be guided by the appropriate person or being to get him where he needed to go. And so I think in everyday life we need to be able to access guidance in the same way and know how to allow that guidance to guide us, not necessarily the obvious, because that wasn't necessarily an obvious form of guidance for him. You have to think about it, and then, well, the camel knows, so let me guide us. And so oftentimes we get guidance from many different places, and we have to figure out which one to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And so he followed that one, and it got him to a place of safety. And then I found the second thing was very interesting, because when the genie came out of the well, he basically said that you should have asked permission. And so respect and regard are very important in life. And so whenever these are qualities which are very important for our spiritual level as well. And so it was interesting that the genie brought that to his attention. But then, does the punishment meet the crime, so to speak? And killing someone because they disrespected, didn't ask permission is not appropriate here. So that's why he was evil.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but anyway, he brought up that, and so he pleaded with him for forgiveness. And the good part of the genie, so the good part of the genie said, well, I forgive you, but you have to give me the first thing. And so then the third aspect was that, are you willing to give up that which you're attached to? And I found that interesting, because then when they went home and the son was handed to him, he went, oh no,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be something else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's our son. And so being attached to children, etc., etc., in life, what are we willing to surrender to be who we need to be?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something that's really important to us that we need to let go of to allow us to be who we actually need to be, or is that holding me back? Maybe it's not holding me back, but we have to check,
Mm-hmm.
and those sorts of things. And so he thought that was rather important to keep his son, naturally. So they went to the sage and got the amulet. And now the amulet is really interesting, because lots of people keep things in their life to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we like to have protection around us of various different forms. And so sometimes different types of protection don't work in different situations. It just depends on what you're doing. But in this case, the amulet was protecting against the genie,
Mm-hmm.
which was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so that boy had to wear that all the time. So in a sense, when you're trying to use protection, if you're trying to protect your mind against something, or you're trying to maintain a particular type of thinking, you have to keep it with you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Keep particular attitudes with you all the time. Keep this or that or whatever it is that sustains you and helps you progress all the time. You have to keep those things with you all the time, like the amulet. So you have to pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting that something protects you, you have to pay attention to it.
Yes.
And so these were really interesting aspects that I saw.
Yes.
And then, of course, when at the end, when the king of the genies came, because the genies sort of protected him from being killed, he did something good.
Mm.
And so, you know, hopefully with all of those things that we do good as well, and that we're actually rewarded for that. And so, very, very interesting story, many different layers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can understand these stories at those three levels, just as you've explained so well. But the question is, what is it that it leads seamlessly into? What is this state that lies beyond those two? This state of integration which we know, body, mind and spirit coming together in one place, into that meditation which is focus and attention, which brings about a state of Satchitananda, or integration on that level of existence. But what is it that lies beyond that, that's evident and brings us to naturally in the process of being able to encapsulate whatever it might be? Because now we can find ourselves in front of a person and we can read their body language, you know, whether they're receptive or whether, you know, they're aggressive or whatever it is. We have that ability on that nitty-gritty level to be able to observe that. And on the spiritual level, we can feel where they're at. Behind their words, we can understand that there's fear or suffering or pain or whatever it is. And on that subjective level, because there's not a separation between us, we can feel that and be aware of it and have the commensurate feelings of compassion or empathy or pity. But there's something more than this, isn't we know? So what is it that this state can lead us into? What is it that seamlessly moves from arriving, if you can speak of it being so beyond?
You're talking about being connected to running everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
With all of that working together for us at any given moment, we're present physically, yogically, the body, mind and spirit are together. And mentally, we're absolutely present with that integration that comes of those levels of existence that come together when they are. But it leads in to something else. What is that? That's the question that's put before you now. But our experience of it in this simple way, listening to stories and being able to understand them and know that we understand them on these three levels, gives us the opportunity to move into that and recognize what it is. That's their purpose. Not for teaching, not for learning in any way at all.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was talking to someone about this the other day, because when we go to festivals, like a 2-week-long festival or a 1-week-long festival, the first day is about taking the blinkers off and just expanding out. And then the second day is about stopping thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Then the third day is about feeling.
Yes.
And just connecting. So it's more on that level of feeling and connecting, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Feeling your way through life rather than thinking your way through life.
Yes, you can say so.
Yeah.